The peaceful village of Croom, situated in the dark shadows of Maryland, watched a horror narrative develop in the life of 22-year-old Stephanie Roper in the spooky spring of 1982. Stephanie, a clever and popular young woman with artistic ambitions, was a ray of hope in the close-knit Roper family. Her return from Frostburg State University for a quick stay with her family and friends signaled the start of a terrifying story. Stephanie planned to see her childhood friend Lisa on the evening of April 2nd. Stephanie chose to drive back to Lisa's house after a night of drinking and dancing in Georgetown, but her car broke down, leaving her stranded on a lonesome country road. After a night of partying at a neighboring bar, Jack Jones and Jerry Beatty came upon Stephanie and offered her assistance. Stephanie boarded their car, believing in their seemingly benign offer, only to find herself trapped at gunpoint. The evil team kidnapped her, triggering a series of events that would turn the night into a nightmare. They exposed Stephanie to horrific atrocities, abusing her many times, cruelly tormenting her, and breaking any sense of humanity deep in the rural terrain. As the first light of morning came, the diabolical combination of Jack Jones and Jerry Beatty faced a critical juncture in their evil scheme. Stephanie Roper, recognizing an opening, sought to exploit the situation by offering not to reveal the atrocities in exchange for a ransom. However, her attempts at bargaining abruptly ended when she overheard her kidnapper's muttered discussion about killing her. The devilish combination of Jack Jones and Jerry Beatty faced a vital point in their nefarious strategy when the first light of daylight arrived. Recognizing an opportunity, Stephanie Roper attempted to take advantage of the situation by offering not to divulge the horrors in return for a ransom. However, Jack followed her relentlessly, propelled by a malignant determination. He callously fired a deadly shot into Stephanie's forehead with a .22 caliber rifle, ending her life in an instant. The bleak scene continued as the culprits attempted to obliterate all traces of their heinous deed. In a planned effort to delete evidence, Jack and Jerry set fire to Stephanie's motionless body, a gruesome act designed to destroy any traces of their horrible deeds. The wetland was chosen as a last resting place for the remains of a young woman whose potential future had been ruthlessly snuffed. Meanwhile, Stephanie's family was getting increasingly concerned as April 3rd approached. When Stephanie's mother reached out to Lisa, she learned that her daughter had left Lisa's residence in the early hours of the morning. A missing person report was made, launching a week-long search that only added to the family's misery as each day went by with no sign of Stephanie. The terrible facts of Stephanie's fate remained secret, shrouded in the shadows produced by the culprits, unbeknownst to the bereaved family. Stephanie's family was left in agony as they clung to the hope that their precious daughter may still be alive after a 7-day search motivated by desperation and hope. In an unexpected twist, a vital discovery came from an unlikely source: Jack's brother-in-law, Steve Annison. Steve bravely sought the authorities after accidentally overhearing Jerry's cryptic confession, uncovering the dark reality surrounding Stephanie's untimely death. Stephanie's burnt and deformed remains were discovered by law authorities on April 11th, kicking off the legal pursuit of justice against those responsible for her misery. Stephanie's dying hours were revealed in sad detail throughout the ensuing judicial process. Jack and Jerry, with a frightening lack of remorse, resorted to blaming each other for the heinous atrocities they perpetrated. Stephanie's family faced unfathomable anguish during the excruciating trial, unable to adequately convey the depths of their grief in court. The defense offered a false narrative in an attempt to minimize Jack's penalty, based on his problematic past and problems with addiction. The courtroom was filled with public fury and the Roper family's ardent call for justice, but the judgments fell short of many people's expectations. Jack and Jerry were found guilty of abduction, sexual assault, and murder, and were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of release after just 12 years. The apparent leniency generated a wave of outrage, throwing a veil over the judicial system and leaving Stephanie's family feeling betrayed by the legal process. Despite the flaws in the judicial process, the Roper family turned their pain into a force for good. Frostburg State University created the Stephanie Roper Gallery and a scholarship in her honor. The family was instrumental in establishing the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center by actively advocating for victims' rights. The sobering fact that Stephanie's sexual offender may be freed after serving very minor terms drove the Roper family to focus their efforts on legislative reform. They worked relentlessly to ensure that victims and their families had a meaningful voice in judicial processes. Despite the devastation, the Roper family found strength in their activism, providing assistance to other victims through the Stephanie Roper Committee and Foundation. Stephanie Roper's legacy lives on via her indelible influence on victims' rights and her family's persistent attempts to effect change. Stephanie's legacy was honored with the dedication of Maryland Route 4, just north of Croom, in 2012, as a permanent reminder of the ongoing quest for justice. Following this terrible story, the Roper family's perseverance and activism serve as a monument to the transformational potential of turning tragedy into a catalyst for positive change. Despite the setbacks of the legal process, the Roper family turned their grief into a tremendous force for positive change. In Stephanie's honor, they established the Stephanie Roper Gallery, as well as a scholarship at Frostburg State University. The family played an important part in the establishment of the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center by actively advocating for victims' rights. When the Roper family realized that Stephanie's abusers may be freed after serving just minor terms, they turned their attention to legislative reform. They relentlessly pushed for measures that would ensure that victims and their families had a substantial say in judicial proceedings. Despite the devastating loss, the Roper family found courage and purpose in their activism, offering assistance to many victims through the Stephanie Roper Committee and Foundation. Stephanie Roper's long legacy lives on through her enormous impact on victims' rights and her family's unwavering efforts to effect genuine change. In 2012, Maryland Route 4, just north of Croom, was dedicated to Stephanie's memory, serving as a permanent reminder of the ongoing fight for justice. In the aftermath of this terrible story, the Roper family's tenacity and activism serve as a poignant tribute to the transforming potential of turning tragedy into a catalyst for positive change. Faced with the disappointing consequences of the court process, the Roper family chose to turn their grief into productive endeavors. In a touching memorial to Stephanie, they established the Stephanie Roper Gallery as well as a scholarship at Frostburg State University, with the goal of leaving a lasting impression on the lives of others. These projects not only honored Stephanie's memory, but also made meaningful contributions to the community by promoting education and the arts. The Roper family emerged as ambassadors for people who had experienced similar experiences by zealously advocating for victims' rights. They were instrumental in establishing the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center, a vital resource that provides support, information, and aid to victims and their families throughout the judicial system. The family's active participation demonstrated their determination to prevent others from experiencing the same difficulties and disappointments that they had throughout Stephanie's case. Despite the frightening possibility that Stephanie's killers may be granted release after serving short sentences, the Roper family shifted their efforts toward bringing about legislative change. They worked tirelessly for measures that would give victims and their families a stronger voice in court. Their efforts were motivated by a desire to correct perceived flaws in the judicial system that had left them disillusioned and neglected. The Roper family found courage and purpose in their advocacy efforts in the face of unthinkable tragedy. They extended their assistance to numerous victims through the Stephanie Roper Committee and Foundation, providing a lifeline to people navigating the complicated aftermath of crime. The family's dedication to inspiring others and bringing about good change became a beacon of hope for those who had suffered similar loss and grief. Stephanie Roper's impact extends beyond the bounds of human tragedy, leaving an unforgettable imprint on the landscape of victims' rights. In 2012, Maryland Route 4 was dedicated just north of Croom as a permanent remembrance of Stephanie's life and the ongoing quest for justice. The Roper family's tenacity and persistence are testaments to the transforming potential of turning sorrow into a catalyst for positive change, a story that inspires and resonates well beyond the bounds of their particular tragedy. The Roper family's fortitude shines through in the face of tragedy. How may personal suffering inspire greater societal change? Well, that's it for today. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you at the next one.